Thank you for joining me. My name's Trish. I'm going to take a look at the chart of Princess Diana, Princess of Wales, and we're going to have a look at what her mission was in life, any issues that she had, and I'm just going to pull out a couple of little tidbits of things that I find a little bit interesting playing out in her chart. In the second part of this reading, we're going to pull some cards on Princess Diana. We're going to take a look at her passing and her mission in life and see how she felt about her mission and whether or not she succeeded in completing her mission. So this should be really interesting. So let's take a look here. I've got the chart in front of me so I can easily see the placements, but it's also on the screen for you to view as well. Now, taking a look at her sun sign, first of all, she is a Cancer. Cancer is all about nurturing others, somebody that is fueled. The sun is how you're fueled, how you're invigorated, how you can shine your light in this world. What fuels you, what makes you feel good, what makes you feel nourished and makes you feel like you're contributing to the world. So here it is all about her nurturing her, and she was a beautiful, kind-hearted soul. So she was very giving and very nurturing, both with her children and her public role and her charities. So this makes sense here with this sun in Cancer, the people that she was very close to in her life. So this would be her relationship with Prince Charles at the time, now King Charles, and her children. So this is playing out here and is a very important part of who she was, what fueled her. So her love for her children, love being Cancer energy, her nurturing of her children, this fueled her. This was a very important part of who she was. Now we have it's in conjunction with Mercury, which is not unusual. Mercury travels quite closely to the sun, but here we've got a bit of a conjunction. It's not too tight here, and that just shows her role in the world and her expression and her speaking and her communication coming from Mercury energy here, and that plays out in the seventh house of communication with the people around her, the people that she loved and cared for. Taking a look at her ascendant sign next, she was ascendant sign Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is quite an expansive energy, very charming, very beautiful energy, very worldly energy. So it's all about world travel, expanded energy of being known, I guess. I'm not saying everybody that's Sagittarius is well known, but it's quite an energy of a jovial and charming personality here. So the only planet that she has in her first house is Saturn. Saturn is the great taskmaster. Now it gives energy of somebody that is, however, it is sitting in Capricorn. I will go through that. But being in the first house there, it's showing somebody that was willing to put the boots on and do the work here. So here we're seeing, and also Capricorn. So Saturn rules Capricorn, and it is sitting in her first house. So first house of crosses over into Capricorn, so that shared energy between Sagittarius and Capricorn. Now, but she is an ascendant Sagittarius, because that was the horizon was Sagittarius when the time of her birth. So but here we're talking about the planets that's sitting in here: Capricorn, Saturn. This is energy of being dutiful and motivated and driven to do what had to be done, do the work that had to be done here. So this showed her beautiful energy of, getting out there and going through war-torn areas where there's bombs had been planted and buried mines. This is, I remember her being, somebody that would walk through these areas, and she was willing to put the boots on the ground and do the work. She knew she had a role to do, and she was very willing to do that, very capable with the Saturn energy there and the Capricorn energy. Now this is where we get juicy, when we start to come into the second house and the eighth house here, and also the public role as well. Lots going on here. We're taking a look at the moon. The moon is sitting in her second house being your value, your worth, your confidence level, you're feeling like you're safe and secure and have enough in the world. Sitting here is very close to the South Node. South Node is the energy that we bring in from ancestry or past lives, and here we're bringing in energy of either a life of safety and security. The mission in this life was all about, 8th house was her mission, so that's the North Node, and it is sitting in the 8th house of Leo. Leo being that public face leader kind of energy, that very charming, charismatic, generous kind of energy. So that all played out for her in the 8th house. And 8th house is a part of herself that she had to share deeply with others. It's also about willpower and personal power here, struggles around sharing deeply with another person or your personal power. So coming back to the 2nd house, this is where the South Node is sitting, and it's sitting close to the moon being her emotional connection here, her self-worth tied up into how emotionally she felt about her worth and her value. And here we can see struggles because it's sitting with Chiron, the wounded healer. This was wounds. She had wounds here around her value and her worth. So perhaps she wanted to be known for being more than just the producer of heirs to the throne, or just being married to the future king. So here I'm feeling like she really wanted to put the boots on the ground here with this Capricorn and Saturn energy in the 1st house, and really make a legacy of, and she done a beautiful job of that. She really did have a beautiful legacy she left behind here, of being somebody that was seen as being beautiful and confident, and willing to talk with AIDS patients at the time when it was very new. It was a very new thing, and it was something everybody feared back then in the 90s. They all fear. It was a time of fear, but she would talk to patients, and that was one of her charities, and one of her not just the charity, it was more than that. It was more about humanitarianism is what was playing out there. So here, and that comes back to the 10th house there, the public life, and we'll get back to that one. But here we're looking at issues are going on around her emotional value, how she felt about herself. There was issues here, issues around her self-value and her self-worth. Even though everybody loved her and she was seen as being beautiful and confident, there's some struggles here because we've got the wounded healer sitting here, coming in perhaps from a past life. Perhaps a past life could have been tied up around values, or perhaps she was struggling for having enough. And although in this life she would have had enough, she would not have had to want for anything. Here we're seeing it's that emotional connection is where she was lacking, an emotional connection, and also feeling like she was good enough. That was a very deep problem that I'm seeing here. Feeling perhaps she never felt she had to toe the line in her duties and her role, but perhaps she never felt like she lived up to she tried hard, and she did. From all what we see, she did a beautiful job. But here I'm feeling her value and her energy. Perhaps she didn't feel like she was good enough, or she was always trying so hard to be good enough, to be accepted. And that's what I'm feeling. It's being accepted is what she really struggled with here, and perhaps she never was accepted, and that really was a struggle for her self-value and her self-worth. She had to look a certain way. And here I'm seeing that by the expansion of Jupiter is expanding those energies of feeling like you're not good enough, and this is where the issues around bulimia or eating disorders could have come into this, playing out with these planets playing out in the 2nd house. So that's very interesting. Sitting in opposition in the 8th house, we've got, this is where the deep darkness is. This is where the real juice of this chart is. Now we've got the North Node. This was her mission. Her mission was to be brave. It was to find her personal power, to try and find freedom in a life that was really about restrictions. She would have really had rules here that she had to toe the line, she had to follow closely. And here it's saying that she just wanted freedom because she's got Uranus sitting in conjunction with her North Node. So all she wanted was freedom. She wanted freedom from the constraint and the restrictions that she had to live by here. And here it's also the energy of, in this 8th house, of Mars. Now Mars energy, we've got some big dark players here and big deep energy here playing out in the house of the 8th house, which is where you share yourself deeply with another person, where you find your power balance or willpower struggle with the feel like the power here, the power dynamics within relationships were playing out here. Now we also have Mars sitting here, and Mars is all about competition. So perhaps she always felt like she had to compete for love, she had to compete for affection, and we do know that she would have had that with Camilla on the scene right through her relationship. So she always felt like she had to compete to have any kind of deep connection here. We also have Pluto sitting here in the 8th house, which is a very powerful energy from Pluto. Pluto is all about deep changes and transformations, and it's also about your willpower and being able to stand up for yourself. Stand up to find that personal freedom. Now it's here, this is challenge that are playing out here. So jumping over to the 10th house, and this is the house of the public role. So this is what she was known for, what her face was, and she was well known for being the Princess of Wales. That was her role in her life. Now here we're seeing Neptune sitting here, and Neptune talks about your boundaries and about personal boundaries and about not having boundaries. So here I feel her public role did bleed into her personal role. So here there was no boundaries between what was put out on display. All those 8th house energies there of her sharing very deeply put out on display. So there was no boundaries between what was sacred and what was personal here. Everything was put out on display for the world to see here. No boundaries being here. Now this is also Scorpio, 10th house of Scorpio, which is the energy of the 8th house. So it's all about those deep, dark secrets that everybody has, that things you have about yourself that you don't share with others, or you don't give them out publicly. They're your deep, dark desires or personal things about yourself that you keep to yourself, and everybody has those things, but here they were put out on display because we're having the Scorpio energy in the 10th house. So these the deepest parts of herself, no boundaries between what was public and what was private here. So that's very interesting as well. Now she has a Venus T-square. She has a T-square, which is a sacred challenge in life, something that would have been very powerful to move her through her life mission. So she's got the Venus in the Taurus in the 5th house. Venus being love and beauty and finding harmony and balance, but also pleasure seeking being the 5th house. So being also creative, what she created with it can be children here, being the mother of the heirs to the throne. Also her creative energy here and her pleasure seeking here also comes into play. So perhaps just wanting to find love or pleasure in life here playing out as part of this T-square with the moon in Aquarius. The moon seeks emotional fulfillment and connection. Now being in Aquarius, it's that kind of energy of uniqueness and wanting to not have to get permission to do things, or not wanting to feel like it was tied up with how other people feel about you. So there's a lot of connection here with how she was seen by others was perhaps tied up into her self-worth, her self-value, whether that be the public, and the public loved her. She was very charming and charismatic, that we see there in her energy of the 1st house, and also the Leo energy there being her north node and her mission in life. So we're seeing that very charismatic personality, and that's how she was seen, and the confidence, but really that wasn't there on a deep emotional level because we have those challenges there that's playing out in the 2nd house. So there we're seeing this T-square, this moon in Aquarius, moon being, finding emotional fulfillment in a unique way. So this had to play out for her, and she had to get all these things to work together for her to feel safe and secure, and to feel like she was enough in the role that she was playing, but enough in her life as well. Really, I'm seeing lots of struggles here with that. Now we also have this T-squaring was also with Uranus energy in Leo. So Uranus again is showing that Aquarian energy, that's need to find freedom, personal freedom from the boundaries and restrictions that played out all tied into what was public and what was on display. So what was public on display and what was private matters that were put on display, and no boundaries there, being the Neptune energy coming into that as well in her public life and her public role. So there's quite a lot of big things that were played out for in Diana's chart, quite a lot of interesting things, and when you know the kind of life that she had, you can see here the challenges that she faced and what she felt on a deep level. Knowing all those planets well for Princess Diana would have been being able to find balance and harmony between how she feels, what she loves, and what makes her feel good and safe while performing her role and trying to have some feeling of privacy and wanting to find pleasure or love or joy privately and not out on display. So this is all coming into it, very much tied into, did she feel good enough from perhaps the family, the family? Did she feel like there was maybe issues where they didn't, maybe issues about her not feeling valued and worthy coming from the family here playing out? And this was part of her sacred hurdle, her sacred challenges in her life. This was all part of her mission in life, her North Node mission against her South Node mission, all tie in here and all play out well. Now there's these placements are quite a hard aspect because it's all about the 8th house, personal power, willpower, being brave, standing up, finding your freedom in restrictions, and also your boundaries here by the 10th house, and you know what was private, what was not. So all this is playing out, and that was playing out in Scorpio energy, which again is about being brave and being able to share yourself deeply in a public role like that, because that's all playing out there in Scorpio in the 10th house. So very interesting with her chart. So now let's take a look at the second part of this reading by pulling some cards on Diana's life, her mission, and her passing. Taking a look at Diana's passing. Okay, 31st of August 1997, the passing of Diana, Princess of Wales. I find this really interesting because we've got the card here of going within. Now this could be the tunnel, going within the tunnel, but then it comes up with celebration. So I would see them being around the other way. It would be perhaps they fell out the other way around. I'm not too sure. I'm pretty sure they fell out the way I've put them though. So some kind of celebration that she's coming from and then going in the tunnel. But why? But she's feeling like she's over something. She's had enough of something. Slowing down here, I feel like could be related to the car, the travel of the car and how fast it was going. But focus, the focus here. Okay. Loss of focus. Maybe from the driver. Could also be the cameras focusing. She had a lot of paparazzi. Collaboration, working together with others, but reflecting on her accountability around other people. Resilient, she put up with something for a very long time, had enough. Here we'll also look at abundance or multiplying abundance. So something related to money here. And health and needing to look after herself. Okay. Now if I was to read this more of a kind of conspiracy way, this would be her... Let's see how well they read if I read this from a conspiracy point of view. This would be her withdrawing from the public face, celebrating that because she had had enough. She had been in the spotlight for a very long time with that resilient card below and had had enough. She wanted her life to be slower and not so fast paced. Here, this is what she was focusing on. This was her mental clarity. This was what her aim and goal and her thoughts were. She was focusing on this. She worked with other people. The accountability below the celebration. So reflecting, and is it reflecting on her accomplishments above there? And her accountability in a matter. Or who was accountable for certain things. Okay, that's interesting. She's bringing up here collaboration, this one here, collaboration, other people involved, and looking at the accountability of somebody who was accountable. Okay, happened for a long time. Money involved. I don't know what the deal was with money back then. Not too sure. But here it's about either something costing money, or money, finding a way of money multiplying, or something related to cost. But money's involved here. And here it says health, but it's all about looking after herself. So she had to do what was right for her. Interesting. This reads really, really well from a conspiracy point of view. Coming back to a mainstream point of view of paparazzi and the car crash going fast. Yes, we see very slow. The driver perhaps lost focus, couldn't see clearly, or lost focus. Who was over it? Maybe they were over the paparazzi. Come from a celebration, went into the tunnel, lots of paparazzi around, had enough, over it, car going too fast, driver perhaps lost focus or mental clarity for some reason. Collaboration, other people involved, other people around. Who was accountable for this? Who was to blame? Accountability is all about blame. Who was to blame and who was accountable? Resilient, long time. So here these two sit right in the center of the spread. Had enough. Something had been going on for a long time. She was over something, whether that's the paparazzi, whether that was being in the spotlight, whether that was her life in the public, playing out in public, and she wanted some privacy. Here she was over something. Something was going on here that she'd had enough of. And she really, here it was about looking after her, looking after Princess Diana. Now I'm just going to pull from another deck. This is my investigation deck, and I'm just going to see if there's anything here related to Princess Diana's passing, 31st of August 1997. Here we're seeing Chariot, the car, and that's correct. The cards are correct there. It was car related. Crime of passion or desire. Okay, related to passion or desire. That's really interesting, isn't it? And why do I say that's interesting? Because it's sitting on top of the accountability. So some kind of accountability could be related to passions on one level. So okay, death card has popped out there. It's just the death card's there. Death in the tunnel. How about that? Death in tunnel has popped out. I'm going to leave that out because those did fall out just there in that clump. Death in the tunnel. How about that? That's interesting. The cards are definitely on it. Oh, cover up. Okay. These are the other cards. Now, when they fall in a clump like that, not all of them are meant to come out, but they're very interesting cards, so I'm going to lay them out for you to see. Accountability, we're putting down person of interest. So it feels to me like there is some kind of accountability here. There's some kind of blame or responsibility here. Death in the tunnel. Okay, so on the bottom layer, I'm picking up here about had enough, over it, going fast, trying to get away. Maybe trying to get away from paparazzi down the bottom. Tower moment. Tower moment is my Tower card. I always think of royals, the death of royals, when I feel the tower falling. Here it's a person of interest, perhaps related to the tower. That's interesting that those two have fallen out together like that. Domestic violence. A cover-up or tampering. And the other cards that have fallen out there are the yes card. That's the correct answer. And please find me. That could be, you know, somebody looking for her. That could be at the time when this took place in the tunnel. It could be trying to find herself, her trying to find answers. Please find me. Could be a card that was not meant to fall out when they fell out in the clumps. I feel like all these are telling a story. Car related, crime of passion, underground tunnel, death. Like you saw me shuffle these cards. These are laying out the scenario that took place here. Person of interest involved here related to the tower. I always think royal when I think the tower, all around the chaos that took place, because tower also means like chaos, the tower moment, the chaos. But we're looking at some kind of domestic violence going on here and a cover-up taking place. Very interesting cards. So thank you so much for joining me. My name's Trish.